I couldn't love the Bills' 40-14 thrashing of the Broncos more. The degree to which I want the Chiefs to knock the Broncos out of the playoffs is overwhelming, because even though 3 games don't make Tim Tebow great or bad or anything, this notion that Tim Tebow was this fourth quarter miracle worker and we should all pay attention to it. By the same token, if they lose their last 3 games, blow an 8-5 record and a stranglehold on first place in the division and miss the playoffs, well, then you get to say the same thing. Well, last 3 games of the season, he didn't step up, he didn't lead. So let's just take everything out of every Tim Tebow conversation and just think, is this guy good enough to play? Because the fourth quarter stuff, it's a limited sample size. It's nonsense. He's not going to be a different person in the fourth quarter. It doesn't happen. By the way, Mark Sanchez, they were talking, to get back to the other game related to Tebow, about how Will Sanchez, when the Jets pulled it within 20-14, Sanchez has 10 fourth quarter comebacks in the maybe his career. I don't know. Those stats are thrown around. Nobody knows what that means. Is that good? Over how many years? And if you have a lot of comebacks, you know who doesn't have a lot of fourth quarter comebacks?
Well, since he's been in the NFL, obviously, would be.
You know who doesn't have a lot of fourth quarter comebacks? Tom Brady. You know why? Because he's
ahead.
Sometimes he's up 27-7 in the fourth quarter, and the game is dull, and they've manhandled you. That stat, by the way, of the most fourth quarter comebacks through your first starts in the NFL, through your first, sometimes it lasts over 2 seasons, and Tebow, I think, had 6. Yeah. You know who else was on that list? Jake Delhomme, Wade Wilson. Jake Delhomme, Wade Wilson, and...
Who the hell is Wade Wilson?
Wade Wilson was a very, very mediocre quarterback for the Cowboys and for the Saints and for the Vikings. He was just an incredibly pedestrian quarterback.
So who's the third?
There was one other terrible quarterback on that list. It was Wade Wilson, Jake Delhomme, and, I want to say Tommy Kramer, but it wasn't Tommy Kramer, but it was...
worse than Jeff Garcia?
Well, Jeff Garcia was a pretty good quarterback for a few years.
Well, I'm saying worse than Jeff Garcia.
No, worse than Wade Wilson. It was in the Wade Wilson, Jake Delhomme. It just, again, it means nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing. It was a freaking giant. It was like a bad giant quarterback. Who was the damn bad giant quarterback who was on that list? Can't remember. Anyway, but it was, again, these are meaningless statistics. You have to be behind, and the Broncos never scored any points, and then Tebow rallied. He's obviously got some skills which defenses struggle to deal with. I got that.
Are you blaming then the media for putting out that statistic and emphasizing it?
Yes, I blame the media for putting out that statistic and emphasizing it without sort of any without any further exposition, without explaining it more. I mean, again, you have to be behind to have a comeback in the NFL, so you have to be losing. And we don't know whether 13 fourth quarter comebacks, I don't know. What's the average number of fourth quarter comebacks for a starting quarterback?
What's the average number of points they were down to?
Right. If
they were down a point.
Maybe you have 2 a year. Maybe that's the average. If you play 4 years and you've had 8, well, then you're just doing what people do. The fourth quarter isn't some special magical quarter. We play all 4 quarters. The points count just the same. Being ahead in the fourth quarter and then losing doesn't mean that you've necessarily blown a game. There was a reason we played that whole 60 minutes. You're up 38-17 in the fourth quarter and you blow the game. You've blown the game. You're up 24-17 in the fourth quarter. Maybe you've had one more possession. They get to try and tie the game. It's not, it's dramatic, and I got it. But we turn it into something more significant than it is. And again, when you're on a list with Wade Wilson and Jake Delhomme and like Joe Pisarcik, it wasn't Joe Pisarcik, but it was like Joe Pisarcik. That is. And then so here we see Tebow this time come out and and I would say look pretty horrible, right? He throws for
4 interceptions.
He was 3 of 4 in the first half.
And he threw 30 passes in the game.
And then he ends up throwing 30 passes in the game. But he's 3 of 4. He ends 13 of 30 for 185 yards. So he's 10 of 26 for 160. And he has 2 picks returned for touchdowns in the second half. Look, man, he looked like a rookie quarterback. And I'm not saying, well, I'm saying it. He's not the future there. He's not the future anywhere. He is a specialist who will have a role in the NFL.
Can you tell me what's happened with the Bills really quickly? What the hell happened to the Bills?
The Bills don't spend any money. Ralph Wilson doesn't spend any money. They don't sort of invest in the infrastructure, and they didn't invest in depth, even though they had significant salary cap space. So when they get off to that 3-1 start, and maybe they were 5-2 also.
Yeah, I get that Fred Jackson got injured. And
right, but then unlike other teams, guys got hurt, and the Bills don't have the depth to deal with it. So especially when they started losing guys up front, they're just completely ill-equipped to deal with the injuries that every NFL team has to deal with. I mean, you know, in the NFL, you got to have some solid second-team guys, because guess what? They're going to play, and they're going to play important positions. Guys get hurt. The Bills didn't invest, didn't spend any money, even when they had money, to sort of bolster their depth, and then they paid for it. And when guys started getting hurt, they were exposed in a way that we don't usually see teams exposed.